So Stop Funding Hate is a very new campaign. We've only been going since August last year. And the big goal we have is to make hate unprofitable. Because right now, kind of by accident, putting out stories that are very discriminatory, that target particular groups like Muslims and refugees and migrants, is a way of making money. And what we've also seen is the problem of fake news, where it doesn't even need to be true. If it pushes certain buttons in human nature, you're going to drive clicks and you're going to get ad sales. So the argument we've been making, mostly focused on the UK mainstream media, which is kind of where we started, is that you can actually fix that if advertisers start to think more carefully about where they're advertising the kind of media that they're funding. I think it's definitely still exhilarating. Our campaign wouldn't exist, we wouldn't have got anywhere if it wasn't for the internet, because the internet gives a voice to millions of people who otherwise wouldn't have anywhere to be heard. I wouldn't use the word terrifying. I think now's the time to hold our nerve and not be intimidated by the changes that are happening. But in a way, it's the flip side of the part that's exhilarating. The internet gives a voice to millions of people who wouldn't otherwise have one, and that can also be a platform for people with very, very extreme discriminatory agendas to kind of get their voice out there. And that's part of the problem that we've seen over the last couple of years, particularly with the huge growth of media hate and fake news. Brands are in a really good position to sort this problem out, because the money that they have from advertising, at the moment, it's going wrong. It's inadvertently funding negative stuff. There's loads of good media organisations out there doing really good work. And if we could get to the point where brands were choosing to switch their advertising away from the negative, fake stuff, and really supporting the many journalists out there and outlets out there who are doing a good job and basically do an ethical check about where they're advertising, this could really transform the internet in a positive way. I think all of us have a responsibility, but brands are in a really good position to actually do something. And it's quite normal for companies to think about their carbon footprint. Obviously, companies don't want to find themselves complicit in things like child labour. And really, we just need to get to the point where advertising is looked at through the same lens. A company thinks, well, what's the social impact of my advertising with this particular media outlet versus this other one here? And if we can get to that point, I think that could be really a game changer. It's a really important question, and it's really important to be clear about the problem that we're dealing with. The issue that I think really concerns a lot of people is that hate crime experts have warned that some of the coverage that we've been seeing in some UK newspapers has actually been fueling hate crime incidents on the streets. And that's, for us, where it stops being just about disagreement or finding staff offensive or objectionable. We're talking about media coverage that's having a real impact in people's lives. The other thing that's really a bit of a shock, I think, to a lot of people is that there are 3 UK newspapers who've been called out by the United Nations over the extreme nature of their coverage, and those are the 3 that we're engaging with. So we've got a clear set of principles that we're applying here. It's not just about what people may or may not like. If we can get to a point where ethical advertising just becomes a natural part of how brands think, then that could be a game changer, because the amount of money that's out there that could be redirected in a positive way has the power to really change the internet for good. There's loads of good stuff happening with the campaign over the next few months. One of the most exciting things is that we've been invited back to Geneva to meet with the UN, who we met earlier in the year, to talk about ethical advertising as a really central business and human rights issue alongside the other kind of international business, corporate social responsibility issues that the UN works on. What we're finding more and more is that more and more organisations want to work with us, want to have this conversation, be part of this big, large debate, because the interesting thing is the questions we've raised about the UK media specifically, actually they're questions about the media across the world and about the whole global media ecosystem.